It is an ideology which provides for a political arrangement where the role, responsibility, obligation of the various organs of the state have been defined as well as delineated. So, constitutionalism per se is an idea often associated with the political theory of John Locke and founder of the American Republic and equated with the concept of regulatories and rule of law. That government can and should be legally limited in its power and that its authority depends on the enforcing this limitation. There are norms creating legislature, executive, judiciary power, but that these norms impose significant limits on those powers. Often these limitations are a form of the civil rights against the government, right to things like free expression, association, equality, and due process of law. But constitutional limits come to a variety of forms. They can concern such things scope of authority. Federal system, provincial, state government may have authority over healthcare, education, which are federal government jurisdiction extend to national defense, transportation. The mechanism used in exercising the relevant power, procedural requirement governing the from legislature, course of civil rights, constitutionalism in the richest sense of the term is idea that government can should be limited in that powers authority depends on the observing the limitations. So Frederick, in order to explain the constitution, the constitution is a wait a minute. So constitution is a fabric in order to explain the constitutionalism and look the help of constitution and constitutional government. Constitutional government is a particular arrangement of the state in which the constitution is considered supreme and not no absolutism. Constitution is a product of constitutional government. It is political arrangement where the government is limited and citizen enjoy a limited right. Restrained constitutional government and no restrained and constitutional government. So we can say Frederick further explained that the two extreme construct in a reality it is a somewhere in the middle of the two extreme. The government which is relatively more restrained is constitutional government and the less restrained is considered as the unconstitutional one. According to him, constitution is a political character of the state of society. It has the followed characteristic: the state is regulated, the citizen enjoy the rights, and the government has certain obligations to be fulfilled. So, governmentality is the term coined the philosopher Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault is referred to the way in which the state exercises control over or govern the body of the populace. So, governmentality also refer to the way in which the people are taught to govern themselves, shifting power from center authority like the state of situation and dispersing it among the population. So, governmentality can therefore be understood to how the conduct its shape make the art of governing and embodied the experience. So, according to the Foucault, governmentalities allow the creation of docile bodies to be used in modern economic political institution while governmentalities can broadly focus broad on the government individual. Foucault was specifically interested in neoliberalism and the form of governmentality. Neoliberal governmentality is what particular interest to Foucault because of the way in which it involved. So, governmentality is approach to the study of the power that emphasizes the governing of the people conduct through the positive means rather than sovereign power to formulate the law. In contrast, the disciplinarian form of power, governmentality is generally associated with the willing of participating in the government. So, the concept of governmentality takes definition of government, exercise of organized political power by nation or states, expand the included active consent and willingness of individual to participate in their own governance. It's proposed the government by the state, not only the governing. That term state are not synonymous and action taken the state alone cannot bring about the desired end. So Indian constitutional is the Constitution of India draw extensively from the Western legal tradition. In outline of the principle of liberal democracy, it is distinguished from many Western constitutions. However, in the elaboration of principle reflecting the aspiration and inequality of tradition, social relations, enhance the social welfare, adopted the 2.5 deliberation of Constitutional Assembly, but also the legislature. The Constitution is put effect the 26 1950. B.R. Ambedkar chaired the drafting committee of the Constitution, supporter of the independent India, founder of father of on the Karamchand Gandhi pact measure that would form the decentralized polity with strong local administration on the Panchayati Raj, and that the rule by panchayats. However, the support of more modern leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru ultimately led to the parliamentary government, and the constitution embodied the fundamental rights which are very much similar to the United States Bill right. And a Supreme Court similar at that United States, it created a sovereign democratic republic called the India, that is Bharat, which shall be the union of states. India is a federal system in which the residual power of the legislature remain with the central government. Similar to the Canada, the constitutional provides a detailed list dividing up powers between the center and the states in Australia, and it elaborates a set of directive principles. So it may be concluded that the Indian constitution framework is based on the following blends of British and American system, blend of revolutionary and evolutionary. Indian constitution framework is based on the British parliamentary system, American presidential system, and the Indian constitution is primarily based on the Westminster model. The Indian constitution is based substantially the Westminster system, but it is not the completely based on model. In fact, it is a fine blend of both a British Parliament system and American system, and further, the Indian model is not the one, but there are a number of white Commonwealth countries which adopted a mix of both British and American system. So, Indian system has imprint of British parliamentary system. For instance, there is an integration of both the executive and legislature in the Indian system. The executive remain in power till they enjoy the majority in the legislature, and there are two different heads of the state, president of India, and the heads of the government, prime minister. Indian system also manifests the dissimilarities with the British system. Some of the pertinent example of the British system, the Parliament Supreme, where the India the Constitution is the supreme, and the British system has unwritten, and whereas the India has the written Constitution. The British system are unitary system, whereas the India has the federal system. So Indian parliamentary system also exhibits similarity with the American system, and is mentioned the both American and Indian system. Constitutional supremacy is a judicial review, and the judicial can nullify or declare a law void if the law is found either contravening or not following the provisions. So Indian constitution framework is a blend of both revolutionary and evolutionary change, and the preamble of Indian constitution is we the people of India. On the other hand, some of the important imprints are reflecting evolution change are the Government of Indian Act and the Government of India 1990. So the Government of India Act, nevertheless, India did not unilaterally adopt the provision from the British India system. They have wide consultation. So the concept of constitutionalism is that the policy governed by the under the constitution that ordain essentially limited government and rule of law as opposed to arbitrary, authoritarian, or the totalitarian rule. Constitutional government therefore should necessarily be democratic government. And constitutionalism is a political philosophy in which the function of the government as a state must be accordance with the provision of the constitution, meaning thereby the action of the government must reflect the constitutionality. So according to the Douglas MacGregor, so constitutionalism is a commitment to limitation on ordinary political power. It revolves around a political process, one that overlaps with the democracy in seeking to balance state power and individual as well as the collective rights. So it draws the particular cultural and historical context from which it emanates that reside in particular consciousness. One may understand how the Indian constitution ensure the limitations of the government, though provision of the preamble, fundamental right, check and balances, judicial review, rule of law, separation of power. First of all, the preamble of the Indian Constitution is the we the people of India having the solemnly resolved to constitute India into the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all the citizens justice, the social, economic, political liberty of the thoughts, expression, belief, faith, worship, equality of the opportunities, and to promote the fraternity as assuring the dignity of the individual. So, November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give ourselves to the Constitution. From the preamble itself, it's clear that people are the popular sovereign and the legal sovereignty lies with the Constitution. So, secondly, the part 3rd of Indian Constitution, which is provide the fundamental right defined the article 12 to 35 and provide the citizen every person would have the infringe to approach court justice like Article 32 and 226, which show the citizen also have some rights to protect themselves from the arbitrariness and active principle of state policies also should be considered to the government while framing of its policy to provide the social economic equality among the people. However, it is expected the citizen also contribute to nations. That's why the fundamental duty of the citizen are also explained in Article 51A, which should be obeyed by every citizen of nation. In sum, the government has responsibility to the citizen and citizen in turn have obligation to the government. So judicial review restrict the power of government, and this doctrine is not clearly stated in Indian constitution, but it reflects the Article 13(2) doctrine was firstly introduced in Justice Marshall in Marbury Madison case, USA, where he clearly said that it is the duty of judge to annul the law made by the legislature which violate the constitution or contrary to it. The similar spirit was 13(2) of Indian constitution, that is law which are inconsistent to the part 3rd of constitution shall be declared null and void. But the answer comes into the light in the reference to the Justice Marshall that judiciary can check such contrary acts and legislation and also can review the law made by legislature. In other words, the legislature function on the principle of legislature competence and it does not enjoy the absolute power. The power of the legislature is nearly defined in the Schedule 7 of Indian Constitution. Therefore, it may be the concluded that jurisdiction of the legislation is limited and restricted, and the judiciary is the guardian rather than the custodian. The judiciary has the power to scrutiny the review the law made by legislature and declare the intra vires of ultra vires. So, fourth provision, rule of law. On the basis of spirit of the constitutionalism can be present in the state, the essence of rule of law is embedded in the Indian constitution, and the absence of arbitrary power of the part of the government, which is the undoubtedly present in the form of judicial review, in the which judiciary always look after the action and after the organ government. The equality of the all and the eye of the law ensure the Article 14 to 18 Indian constitution, with some reasonable restriction. The rule of constitutional law are the result of the ordinary law, which mean that law made by the legislature must not be contrary to the provision of constitution, otherwise it will be declared null and void. Okay, so in England, rule of law flourishes sovereignty of legislature and sovereignty, but it's India where the written constitution and concept of judicial review also present, so the doctrine of rule of law cannot be assigned a paramount place. Okay, so, but to promote the spirit of constitutionalism, the shadow of this doctrine reflect in various provisions in Indian Constitution in the form of fundamental principle of natural justice. So, fifth provision is what? It's separation of power. It's Government of India, Article 245 and 246, Schedule 7. Demarcate of the legislature's power among the union and state government under the Article 256 and 263 administration relation are also clearly defined, and Article 254 is any inconsistency between the center and state law, then central law will be prevail, and 264 and 291 fiscal relation between the center and states, and therefore there is a rare chance of clashes between the center and states. So, power of the state and union is clearly demarcated. There is no space arbitrarily power to the subject. Generally, the subject which are the national importance based in the union list, and those have regional importance based in the state list. So, concurrent list made for the establishment unity integrity in the nation. Finally, there is also the residuary list, and union has jurisdiction over the subject of that list. Furthermore, the union government has clearly declared the outline roles of the power of executive. Its Article 52 to 73 of Constitution mention about the role and power of the President and Vice President of India. Similarly, Article 74 and 70 mention about the role of power of Council of Ministry, Prime Minister, power of defined under 79 Constitution. Article 80-81 mention about the composition of Council of States, Council of House of People respectively. In short, the Constitution of India has the clearly limited the roles have power of every institution including the President, Council of Ministry, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. On many concluded there is the On we conclude there is a detailed description of power of the organ of government so that they can exercise their power within the boundaries of constitution, and they have a restriction the unlimited power of organ. These provisions protect the interest of the individual in the country, and constitutionalism is undoubtedly present in India except the doctrine of rule of law. Indian constitution is been seen that the constitutionalism is reflected in India through the very various provisions such as preamble, rule of law, judicial review, separation of power. Now, one may try to understand whether constitutionalism exists in India and the practical analysis various facets of India, ideology, institutional, civil society, and political culture. India is considered to be the largest democracy, and the preamble of Indian constitution will observe that to constitute India under the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. 42 constitutional amendment. The big question is that whether the country is truly democratic, secular, socialist practice. Atul Kohli, were known political scientists, observed that India is very successful in procedural democracy and but failed to achieve that significantly in substantially democracy. But all said done, the democracy in the country is only 6 decades old. It is the quite natural. It will be the some time before the democracy will be there mature. So socialism per se and an ideology which never believe in the state religion. Every citizen in the secular profess religion of this is choice which promote the automatically liberty. From the beginning, India has been the secular and the world since independent. However, there are some elements of concern, especially the emergence of religious fundamentalism, and the fundamentalism elements have been creating the features of Indian society, multi-religion as well as the multi-ethnic, cultural and lingual. It's very difficult to these fraction elements of disintegrate the unity integrity of the nation. The country is well known for the unity in the diversity, but constitutionalism is a protected and promoted through the instruction and value system which are modern, progressive and rational. On the contrary, the value system, custom and tradition which are conservative and unscientific, irrational, detrimental to the concept of constitutionalism. But the country has been fortunate to have the experience a long and vibrant freedom struggle. So created modern and pan-India values. These values have been the well integrated and adapted to the modern democratic value. Furthermore, the freedom fighter have insisted the citizen sense of the belongingness, oneness, and however the Farid Zakaria came with the text The Future of Freedom, Liberal Democracy and Home Abroad, which highlight the change in the political value democracy. He emphasized that there is increasing intolerance and this is not due to the corruption maladministration, but today people are political party place more importance on the primordial and exclusive interest. So these divisive interests have created fissure society, therefore increasing the illiberalism at the both abroad. Finally, all the recent development have threatened the reconstitutional and ushering the biased and authoritarian system. The Indian political parties are categorized into the two. First is the national, second is the state party. But some of the political parties have their origin from the India independence. For example, Indian National Congress, Forward Bloc, Akali Dal, National Conference. Some political parties are social political organizations like become political parties after the independence, but many of the present parties are established after the independence. So India being the multi-religious, ethnic, religion, caste, culture, it have a variety of political parties representing the interest of the various section of the society, and the Indian political parties are source of who is who of India. In the initial phase of independence, political parties operated with high ideal of democracy. Among them, most dominant party was Indian National Congress. Rajni Kothari remarked that the Indian political system is one-party dominant system. With the time, political system began to the mature and political party must gradually become the powerful. The political parties, especially the regional parties, are promote the primordial interests such as the caste, religion, language, all said the done. Emergence of numerous parties strengthened the constitutionalism in the country. In short, the diversity ensure the check and balance various agendas. So in Indian politics, there are the political parties in which one person pull all the string. So this feature exercised over the before Indian independence, when the Mahatma Gandhi was father of figure of Indian National Congress until the death. Indira Gandhi for some periods was a complete control of the party. Likewise, the Shiv Sena and Bal Thackeray, the system of centralizing the power at the individual. Okay, and the political party become the rampant feature in Indian politics, thereby threatening the constitutional. but the parties are categorized into the center, right, left. Okay, and parties may be broadly categorized into central, left, central, right. Then civil society is the organized part of the society which carries the opinion of various issue prevailing in the society. Robert Putnam through studies the emphasis on social approach and the society which have vibrant active civil society promote the sustained democracy, thereby strengthening the constitutionalism. And civil society has been the present country from the very beginning. And Central Social Welfare Board established Durgabai Deshmukh earlier 1950 has been engaged in the bringing welfare to the people. However, there is a radical shift in the composition and mode of the operation. Earlier, the civil society had smaller number of members. They are promoted the government. The civil society were largely engaged charity, philanthropist work, but organization enjoyed less autonomy as they were supported and funded by the government. But the subsequently to the government approach from 1919, the civil society have become the very autonomous, vibrant, and the emergence myriad of the civil society is one of the positive aspect of liberalization and globalization. Now, political culture. So political culture is very important chapter. Okay, so I'm discussing here. Political culture may be defined the political psychology of the country or the nation. In other words, it set the attitude, belief, sentiment which give the order and meaning of the political process and which provides underlying the assumption of rules and governed behavior in the political system. It encompasses the both political ideal and operation norms of polity. Political culture is thus the manifestation, aggregate form of psychological, subjective dimension of the politics. A political culture is a product of both collective history and the political system, and this rooted equally in public events and private experience. In short, political culture is the subjective orientation of the people and the political variable including the structure like legislature, executive, judiciary, institution like rules, law, constitution, values, social liberalism, federalism, political issue like terrorism, Naxalism, and food security. So historical factors are the impact the general attitude, belief, value, behaviors, and value of its people have been allowed to emerge with the modern attitude also. Geographical factors, we can say stay and settled permanently, massive influx of foreign races, political culture influenced by the foreigners. Okay, and that's where the development value secularism, secular political culture. Social economic factors also are there, predominantly urban industrial society, complex society, rapid communication, higher education standards, group consciousness, participation, decision making, value and belief, and all that. Okay, and the political continuity is also there. Political continuity is result of the unbroken set of belief and attitudes merge altered values attitude. Symbols are also there like the ceremonial opening, parliament, religious rituals like coronation ceremony, social rituals, and evoke the emotional attachment. Okay, and a number of factors play important role in the development of political culture. Now, component of the political culture is what? Like cognitive orientation. Cognitive is what? This is knowledge and skill by individual which enable them to participate as a member of a knowledge about the political object, belief, familiarity with the working of the political system. Affective orientation is what? It's about the affective orientation reflect the emotional feeling to subjective feeling of the attachment, detachment, or detachment or alienation toward the political system. Okay, so this is the affective orientation. Like attitude, parameters and all that. Evaluation is what? Evaluative orientation. This is the judgmental, this is the opinion, this is the encompasses the individual about the political object. So generally involve the application of the values standards, and these components political culture have to assess the level of the political socializations. So now types of political cultures are parochial culture. Parochial culture is what? It's a low awareness, expectation, and participation of citizens, but it do not possess a satisfactory level of cognitive orientation toward the political system. Society characterized by type of the political culture, and this is participation politics because it's a visualized in the elite domain. Subject culture is what? It's a characterized by the higher level of awareness and the expectation, but there's the low participations. So citizens have cognitive orientation only toward the output of political system. This is tend to the reflect in the citizen who expect the positive action government, but they themselves are not politically active and have less inclinations. Participative is what? Characterized by the higher level of awareness expectation and participation on the part of the citizen. This type of citizen have the cognitive orientation toward the both inputs and outputs, and the society which possesses the type of the political culture tend to have the citizen have the high expectations, and the culture is central to principle of successful functioning of the democratic system. Thus in parochial culture the citizen tend to be the passive and do not take any part in the decision making process. In subject political culture the citizen perceive themselves as a subject of the government and not as a participant in the politics system of the nations. In participation political cultures the citizen actively participate in the political country. The masses play a role to influence the government, and the participant political culture is the foundation of democratic system. The term political culture was used the Gabriel Almond and the comparative political system, which is appeared to general political system in 1956. Several others like the Samuel Beer, Adam Ulmas, Sidney Verba, Lucien Pai, Daniel Cowan have responsible for the touchstone for the morphological study of system. But Ward, Almond and Powell, they are the political culture is the pattern of individual attitude, orientation toward the political among the beliefs, sentiments of that give order and meaning of the political process. Provide underlying assumptions and operates norms of polity. Political culture is thus according to the Sidney Verba, political culture is the subjective orientation to the politics or the system of empirical belief, expression, symbols, values define the situation in which political action take place. Political culture is products of many interrelated factors, traditionally as well as the modern elements also there. In nature of political culture is always determined by the existing ethnic difference, ethnic conflict among the several ethnic groups, and the Gabriel Almond and Sidney Verba, the civil culture, political attitude, democracy, Five Nations is considered to be the one of the important work, and they survey the 1000 person sample, and United Kingdom, Germany, Italy participants are the citizen understand and take the voluntary association, and subject in which the citizen largely obey, and parochial like in which citizen have neither knowledge nor interest in politics. But the author found that democratic stability arises with the balance of mixture of the cultures. So now types of political cultures are the support to the government. To what extent the people support government, trust in other political parties, feeling of the people towards the other individual group, efficacy of one role in the political system, importance of individual in the political process, importance of participation. So the parochial culture is the support of the government is very low. This is the this is the unawareness about the political system. Like tribesmen are there, Central Africa, Latin America, and trust in the other political parties are where citizens feel closer to the tribes, regions, religion, ethnic groups. They do not sense of other social ethnic groups, and the nation states are political systems such. This is the Kosovian and Bosnian. And third is efficacy of one's role in the political system. This is the low support to the government is the low sense of efficacy. How would individual think about the ability to influence the government? So people know but do not act. There is the high support of government, and citizens believe that belong to legitimate political system. Other loyalty exists, but secondary after the loyalty to the and participant culture is what? Participant culture is the similar to the subject culture. Is recognition, acceptance of legitimacy of the government, differentiate the major belief of the role of masses, and they usually approach to the state its interest and compatible to the individual interest. And most people society accept the gaining and transferring the powers and loyalty nation and more important than the specific loyalty. The level of the political efficacy is very high, and in the subject culture there is the more trust to the other group in society encompassing the parochial culture. The individual have the low sense of efficacy, however individuals still do not think the participation matter of the affect the politics. Okay, and the first one is that the along with the low support to the government is low sense of efficacy. How would the individual think about the ability to influence the government that they do not believe in the existence? So Almond and Verba edited the volume The Civic Culture Revisited. Several authors demonstrate the political cultures each of the subject country was undergoing major changes, and this predictable original study suggested the political culture and the public opinion. So critics are the civil culture also pointed out the political structure and the effective governance, economic policy. West Germany government met the government country citizen as the democracy. Britain and economic Germany government met the country citizen democracy, where the Britain decline made uh, Now, problem again determining causality. So, political culture in India, if we are talking about attitude of the politics value, ideology, national character of culture, ethos, but all of style manner substantially from politics. Political culture people gives an orientation toward the polity and its process and manifestation of aggregate psychological subjective dimension. Political culture is the product of both the collective history and the system. So, political culture of India's character is dualistic nature, modern and traditional. So, mass nationalism, regionalism. A number of scholars believe in there is no single political culture, but rather there is a multiple political culture. Other work, the political culture of India is the homogeneous, rather heterogeneous, and the contrasting political cultures say the modern traditional elites mass exists in the confrontation. So, elite political culture is the considered defensive political culture, and the elite political culture is the democracy, liberalism, rule of law, autonomy, supremacy of judiciary, separation of power. This very concept British administration was accepted, and middle and upper class educated forward-looking Indians and percolate the values and ideas. The large chunk of the population is mass India, the mass of the fourth political culture which exists the confrontation, cooperation of allied political culture. Iqbal found that the general perception of people and tradition and mass political culture obstruct the commitment, loyalty, and the people are more where their primordial value hampering the participation of government. However, the Narayan firmly rejected this general perception. He reiterated that the traditional of mass political culture not necessarily go against the nationalism. He questions if mass political culture encompasses the fundamental approach and it is the jeopardize the nationalism. Otherwise, he believed that multi-ethnicity countries tool for check and balance and ensuring the accountability and responsive administration. So Rajni Kothari, Sanli political, according to him, the use of the politics achieving the highest social, moral, ethnical objectives. Mahatma Gandhi, Baba Abdi, Jayaprakash Narayan used the politics to eradicate the untouchability, poverty, disability during the Day of Freedom, and the Santi political cultures was predominant. The freedom fighters fought with the high principled ideal. Meanwhile, the politics has become an end itself and leader. This leader named achieving the higher moral ethical goals and politics is achieving the personal goal. During the practice of unsanity, political cultures become the rampant and since political cultures decide tone of tenor of administration. Unsaintly, political cultures minus governance of nation, however, it is the encouraging practice of the political culture increase the Mazdoor Kisan Seva Sangathan, Namda Bachao Andolan, National Campaign for Dalit High Rights. Andre Betelis, sociologist, observed that the political culture is Indian ambivalent, confusing, irresponsive attitude. Most of the Indians have a tendency to cynical towards the politics. People in the politics and people with the position. The common people blame these people, and the common people think that if at all something could be done to improve the society, then it is the responsibility of these people to the helm affairs of the perform and ironically that common people don't want to take the responsibility voluntarily. The responsible behavior of the common people is the moral hazard of the country, and the Battalies believe that the administration can be effective people authority sincere and honest, so should be participative assertive. The common people should not be shy away from the responsibility and participate voluntarily and ensure the better governance. In other words, the battalions emphasize on the participations of the organization and number of the civic society which is welcome the development of the society. So, India population has been three races Aryan, Dravidian, and Mongolites. And the Vedic Brahminical foundation view of the neo Hindu whites movement and the Hinduism, Islam, now confrontation, cooperation imprint the British colonial administration. Singh believed that pluralism and political culture is healthy, effective administration. Allman and Verba has mentioned the type of political culture, parochial subjects and participative. They observed the political culture and they found that the political culture developed the country USA, UK, and they are found the participation of citizen developing countries and violent and vandalizing. Now, civilized and disciplined type of participation effort the civic culture. An Indian political culture participative nature and the participation not very civilized discipline, but the Hindu and Ram wrote the text political culture. He observed that the common man in India is very much aware of politics. However, this is the common man has the very poor knowledge. Sexual harassment, judicial accountability bill, common man is very much ignorant about the political issues. Ram is opinion that Indian political culture is participative. However, they advocate that Indian political culture should move toward the civic culture. Alman and Varba also told the same. So, Indian political culture bear the impact of ideology of democratic socialism. Social and economic factor always plays a determinant role in the foundation of political culture in the predominantly urban industrialized society. Putting the premium of rapid communication and industrialization is an important factor to values and attitude. The rapid influx of immigrant, war, revolution, all may be revoked. Change in the political values and belief, and subsequently, political system is culture is not the static, rather dynamic, and new ideas generated from the within the political system. Now, next chapter is bureaucracy and the democracy. Okay, bureaucracy and democracy. What will you write down? The term bureaucracy is the French word bureau, meaning the desk, office. So Greek kratos, meaning the political power. Bureaucracy is the group of non-elected officials, like non-elected administrative authority within the government of institution to implement the rule, law, idea, functions. On the other hand, the democracy derived from the Greek word demo, which is the kratos, meaning the rule, demo meaning the people, and the refer and the ideal which promote the individual essence and ideology where the individual choice are protected. So there has been a long standing debate compatibility, bureaucracy and democracy. Regarding to compatibility rather than view of divided, some note like Max Weber, Max Eva, Adjoni, Marx. Democracy, according to Weber, one of the factor is the emergency of bureaucracy. Democracy promote the reason, demands and democratic sentiments. He, while explaining the democracy, modern state said, state is responsible for the number of functions and activities, housing, education, infrastructure. So, as a layman can't take up the responsibility, it is demand high skills. Therefore, there have to be a body of experts to take all the highly specialized responsibility. Bureaucracy body expert assist the accomplishing the responsibility, but democracy believe in the election, not in the selection. Therefore, in order to address the concern of equality, the state should function the inanimate law, and the bureaucracy function with the impersonal law. It is a free from the women fancy discretion. Thus, the bureaucracy can be structured achieve the equality. Meanwhile, in the capitalist economy, there is need for predictability, economic progress. Capitalists should be anywhere to bring about the stability, predictability. Weberian bureaucracy being the based on impersonal law bring efficacy and economy. It ensures the stability, predictability. Therefore, the bureaucracy is one of the reasons to emergence of capitalism. The states of the purpose of the citizen, bureaucracy of the address the purpose of the state. Bureaucracy require the authority to perform all the function to achieve the purpose of the state. But the bureaucracy at the time may be empowered the increasing the authority. This is major concern of the state. If excess authority is given to the bureaucracy, even the jeopardize the individual liberty. So bureaucracy is the base of selection and it does not promote the people's sovereignty. On the other hand, democracy promotes the people's sovereignty. This clearly indicates those ethos of bureaucracy and democracy are different. What I want to say, bureaucracy based on the selection does not promote the people's sovereignty, but democracy promotes the sovereignty. According to the Weber, democracy and bureaucracy are largely compatible as there may be some danger. He believed that the danger may be contained. Democracy is representative democracy. To wrap up, the democracy and bureaucracy may be different ethos and values. However, the bureaucracy is not adopted, then the democratic system may fail. Thus, democracy and bureaucracy, according to the Weber, are predominantly compatible to each other. Karl Marx had analyzed every aspect of the perspective economic rather than economic substructure. According to him, bureaucracy is a part of the state which reflects the economic substructure. In fact, the economic substructure flow from the exploitative nature of bureaucracy. The state being the superstructure and economic substructure, his approach is monocausal. The economic substructure is equated with the subjection, bureaucracy being a coercive arm, and the instructions protecting the promoting the interests of dominant class. He believed in the democracy which believe in individual may promote the interest of the dominant class and bring the inequality. Therefore, he concluded that bureaucracy and democracy are the complementary to each other. Gramsci, other neo-Marxist scholar, believe that state through bureaucracy may not be promote egalitarian society. In other words, accepted the view of Marx, they believe that the dominant class will capture the society and its fight the ideological hegemony. Bureaucracy may become a victim bourgeoisie, an act to promote inequality and perpetuating the ideology of the dominant group. At the same time, the neo-Marxists believe that bureaucracy may not necessarily promote the inequality. In the society where there is the active participation of civil society, administration is broad-based, equality and participations, democracy, it developed that country, the civil society play the major role. Bureaucracy is not captured the elites. Henceforth, the bureaucracy acts as an instrument for the equality and thereby making the bureaucracy democracy compatible. So development administration to concept of the socio-economic growth, nation building, and has the Riggs, Palambora, and according to Riggs, there is a need for the development as well administrative development, socio-economic development, and development require the development administration with the adequate financial skill, technological skill. There is the relationship egg and chicken. This means leading to another both equally important. So development administration requires a strong bureaucracy. Some scholar bureaucracy is necessarily evil and demerits. Bureaucracy is one of the hand inherently pose a danger in individual liberty democracy. So bureaucracy is inevitable, not possible to bring development without the bureaucracy. Education is strong social elites and dispersed social elites will counter the authoritarianism. Bureaucracy is very much required to bring about the development. Strong bureaucracy pose a danger. So bureaucracy is essential for the development and may pose some danger, but similar to Max Weber, democracy requires a skill performing functions, and bureaucracy is a double-minded. Like the bureaucracy expected to non-political, yet it has to understand the deal with the politics. But bureaucracy instead understanding the politics indulge in the politics. That is instead helping the politics executive rather promote the political agenda. So political executive dealing with the various issue becomes the compatibility with the democracy. There is a lack of clarity between the bureaucracy and political laws. The lack of clarity flow from the second aspects. Bureaucracy is double-minded. The goals at many times of the executive is to formulate law and guide the bureaucracy in implementing it, and the role of occasion is the bureaucracy enter into the realm of the politics dilute. So this results in the bureaucratic politics. The bureaucratic politics contrary to democracy. Ultimately, it brings about the dominant bureaucracy. On the other hand, the political executive, while the monitoring the implementation of the political bureaucracy may cross the limit, the result in the subsequent bureaucracy. So in short, the bureaucracy democracy are compatible to each other. When the bureaucracy and political executive are balanced, it should be neither subservient or nor dominant. The balanced bureaucracy is explained by David Nachimians and Janovich. According to the Nachimian Janovich, the bureaucracy will be successful when it is neither subservient nor the dominant. It is a balance, that is, the bureaucracy has to be responsible to public commitment, political decisions about the constitutional value, and the participative bureaucracy refers to the one which undertaken decision by the including all the stakeholder decision making process, and the participative bureaucracy bring about the inclusive people-centric approach. The non-participative bureaucracy on the other hand turn the bureaucracy into an authoritarian directive one. Today, puppets, the evidence of the bureaucracy can be ideal model when it's representative, balanced, participative. Bureaucracy, democracy. In Indian democratic, so bureaucracy is subordinate to the political class, and it is up to the political class to define the nature role of bureaucracy. In India democracy, there has been political instability, immaturity, and the Indian bureaucracy played a vital role providing the needs of stability, continuity. Indian society is different from the structure. There is a ubiquitous socio-economic inequality, and the dominant may monopolize the development. In context, responsibility of Indian bureaucracy ensure the inclusive egalitarian society and decision maker democracy layman. It is the Indian bureaucracy which is provided necessary expertise. Indian bureaucracy is the subordinate to the political class. Subhash Sharma, through his study, was the Indian bureaucracy is subservient to a political class. He observed that the traditional notion of the higher level of intervention by the bureaucracy leads to bureaucratization, and the bureaucracy intervened the capitalism. So there is a need to control the Indian bureaucracy. He found bureaucracy is not against capitalism. Wherever the capitalism is successful, the bureaucracy played a major role. So success of the capitalism is depend on the bureaucracy. No single capitalist economy has grown without the assistance of bureaucracy. No democratic system even. Political class dispose the bureaucracy execute. Thus the bureaucracy is a horse and political master is the rider. So bureaucracy pays the direction that decided the rider. It is not the bureaucracy that inhabited the capitalism. Rather, it is the political class and the activity that inhabited the capitalism. It is the seen that liberal capitalist countries bureaucracy promote the capitalism, but in communist countries the bureaucracy inhabited capitalism. State of the south, west, or industrially advanced bureaucracy is these state promote the capitalism. Lack of the growth industry, the bureaucracy is unable to promote the capitalism. Further, the analyze India to face and liberalization growth of India was quite slow. So Raj Krishna referred the cynically Hindu growth road. The bureaucracy observed the growth of development and the 1991 there is the rapid growth. Indian economy, the bureaucracy played a major role in the growth and economy, and thus it is implied the evidence of bureaucracy. The bureaucracy being the elected, not elected, represent the permanent executive and political class. So bureaucracy, this is also true the India that Changla Commission is the established that ultimate supremacy lie with the political class. Both the blame fames attributed to the political class, though the Indian bureaucracy and the democracy don't contradict theoretically. But the actual practice was the N.N. Vohra Committee report disclosed the unholy nexus between the political class, businessmen, criminal bureaucrats. This dilute the relationship between the Indian bureaucracy and the democracy. The Indian bureaucracy does not protect the democracy, rather obstruct the democracy. Therefore, the Indian bureaucracy does not protect the democracy, rather obstruct the democracy. So he observed that Indian bureaucracy is based on the hierarchical structure. Hierarchy is necessarily result to the subordination, and hierarchy in nature promotes the discipline, rationality, responsibility, and authority. In animated principle which ensure the equality and its district collector and under the Prime Minister India hierarchy, this does not mean that DC is the servant of PM. DC is the still DC. Further, he found that Indian bureaucracy is based on the specialization, but the specialization does not exclusively other. Specialization then extend to the tool enhance the productivity, effectively, efficiency. Last, the India is inherent diverse. To protect the diversity, every individual has to deal without specific particular consideration to eliminate the discrimination. This brings the egalitarian society. It is the impersonality help to protect the identity of every culture and social group. So Indian democratic provides stability and continuity. Post independence bureaucracy handle the trauma of participation and communal riots. It's the participation in communal riots. It is the Indian bureaucracy which adapt the management and the Herculean task, not letting the system fall in hands and military rule, which is otherwise the newly independent. Election and smooth transfer of power is also there, time to time, and also ensure the smooth transfer of power from one government to the another government. Even in day of the emergency, bureaucracy ensure the continuity. Dark or black period of Indian, it's a fractured Indian prior to emergency and post emergency, it was a looming large Indian democracy may fall in hands of military. In fact, the allopathy reports one with the military, so the bureaucracy did credible work in time of war. In succinct, Indian bureaucracy has done remarkable job. There is a surge in the number of the middle class family, rapid industrialization, ensuring the food sufficiency, rapid development, science and technology, health service infrastructure. Indian bureaucracy has also provided much needed stability and danger like war, communal riots, emergence. In short, bureaucracy has protected the Indian democracy. Indian society structure the bureaucracy. Subhash Sharma has hypothesized that Indian society inherently different structure, but socio-economic inequality is there. But since society is differently structured, dominant may sideline the weak, poor, marginalized, the ultimately result biased decision. So ensure that public policy benefits all section of society. Bureaucracy is the duty bound to execute the public policy formulating the political laws. The Indian bureaucracy democracy have to compatible to ensure the successful implementation of the policy. Like 1947, now 1981. There is a 17% of the lower class, now 10%. No female representation was there, now it's 15 to 20% of the female representation is there. Bureaucracy is still representative. He referred to the some studies conducted to understand the representation in India. So earlier the individual from the humanitarian stream domicile the civil service. Now professional courses are there and 170 officers are training an exam in the Hindi medium, and 33% of the rural background will become in this exam, 19% of the females also. Now Indian bureaucracy provided the expertise also. So Subhash Sharma hypothesizes that bureaucracy provided the required skill and expertise. He is a layman decision maker. Bureaucracy is the body of the expert to help the decision maker. In respect past, increase the number of the graduate, postgraduates. Political class is still the facilitated term of the expertise skill inputs from bureaucracy. Overall, there has been gray areas, but unholy nexus between bureaucracy and political class. and administration, issue of neutrality and commitment, issue of decentralization and centralization. Number of scholars like Gunnar Mindal, Asiatic drama, administrative direction leading to the corruption, folklore. Hamza Alvi discussed about the overdeveloped society. According to him, there is a huge gap between the demands and supply of developing country. This result administration discretion and ultimately is incompatible between the democracy and the bureaucracy. In other words, the absence of reasonable guideline, check and balance, there is the danger, the administrative discretion, whim and fancy. It is very much required that administration should have guidelines, regulation, check and balance. But Indian adopted political administrative system, Eastminster system, Westminster system. And the bureaucracy advised the political class best intention and the political class choose the best option among all of the decision. So bureaucracy becomes suspicious political class, their motivation narrow parochial, but meanwhile the political class rule maniac. And meanwhile the Indira Gandhi believed that the developing country like the India rapid socio-economic development commitment. According to the Indira Gandhi, the political class elected the people the mean of the political agenda eligible people India. However, the Indian bureaucracy did not accept the idea of the Indira, challenged it. Indira Gandhi thus restored the transfer department action and it in form of insignificant posting for the inconvenience bureaucracy. Ultimately, the Indian bureaucracy surrendered. It is a remarkable. Without the fall, the bureaucracy when the ass began to the bureaucratic started to anticipate the minds of political leader, what the minister thinking. Ultimately, unholy nexus between political and bureaucrat. The Indian bureaucracy become the subservient of political class. In ideal scenario, civil servant should be the keyless and neutrality rather sensitivity. But Indian bureaucracy is the centralized bureaucracy, thereby it's unable to enjoy the trust and interest of people. But bureaucracy should be decentralized so as to build the trust and confidence and from the people. Its recent past there have been the most positive steps: decentralization, advisory consultative forum, broad-based participation. To wrap up, the bureaucracy democracy are compatible to large extent, and centralized bureaucracy nexus between bureaucracy and political class issue of neutrality commitment will be there. Now bureaucracy and development, this will be the last. Okay, so there has been long-standing debate over the bureaucracy and the vehicle for the development. These views are the divided. Some noteworthy contribution, some of Weber, Peter Blau, developer administration scholar. So bureaucracy as an organization expected to be play a pivotal role. USA and the bureaucratic system expected to be the effective instrument to achieve the objective development with their emphasis rule and regulation, division of labor, hierarchy, role, specialization, rationality, impersonality, neutrality. Bureaucracy expected to ensure the smooth process of development, and bureaucracy played a key role: stability, standard, integrity, professional competence. Bureaucracy supported the industrialized development capacity. Bureaucracy adopt the change in the rather low so developing country where the temporal dimension is a play key of the development. So Max Weber is a synonym with the bureaucracy. He was elaborately discussed about the administrative system, and administrative system he came to be the type of the patrimonial feudal bureaucracy. According to him, bureaucracy is characterized by hierarchical, impartial, honesty, rationality, integrity. Fact, bureaucracy is a legal rational administrative system. It's the most efficient system, patrimonial, feudal bureaucracy. He believed bureaucracy is the vehicle of the development. Weber believed that the check the democratically elected political leaders. In other words, he believed the representative democracy also. So Weber's view is a challenge by a number of scholars like Mauro Berger, Dix, Mitchell Corgier, Ralph Bunty, and Gordner Selznick, who took empirical study. Mauro Berger took empirical study in Egypt and come out with the bureaucracy and the society. He observed that the Egyptian bureaucracy was quite different from Weber. Define the outline: instant honesty, integrity, impartiality, refers of red tapeism, corruption, other negative elements. Rix was the Thailand, Philippines, India. In order to developing countries, he come out with work Prismatic Society and Prismatic Society revisited. After a study, he concluded bureaucracy is developing countries and structure Weberian, not functionally Weberian. But developing countries, the character is heterogeneity, formalism, overlapping, nepotism, cliques, and favoritism. Mitchell Cogier concluded empirical study of the France detailed the French bureaucracy in this book, Bureaucratic Phenomena. French bureaucracy did not display the character of Weberian bureaucracy, rather displayed the French feudal character, highly rule-bound. Ralph Brainbunty conducted study of Pakistan. He also the Pakistan bureaucracy is similar Weberian bureaucracy. And Weberian bureaucracy, the bureaucracy is the Pakistan authoritarian, obstructionist, feudal. In short, all the empirical study was the Weberian bureaucracy. So according to Peter Blau, the Weberian model state mechanistics and system is not enabled to the constitution model is what? Is the Anvil Toffler and the Burns Starker model. So it's a view. It's a view. Okay. Elitist nature of IAS, that is the one problem of bureaucracy. Immature politics surveillance, there's the inadequate check and balance. This is the resultant high operational autonomy, ultimately leading to rampant corruption, whimsical action, administrative discretion, and authority in bureaucracy. And bureaucracy and development is like Weberian character was discipline, integrity, honesty, rational, scientific, empirical, dynamic, innovative, flexible, participative, decently democratic, action-oriented, result-oriented, creative. The loyalty to the people, to democratic value, not to the political leaders. And purpose of the bureaucracy should be serve the democratic values. The attitude of bureaucracy should be flexible. Contingency model is the Alvin Toffler. Okay, and so as advocacy similar to Warren Bennis come to the organic adaptive system. So Alvin Toffler, Burns and Stalker, Lorche and the Warren Bennis, they are the theorists who given the contingency situational model. And this is the Weberian bureaucracy applicable in mechanical closed environment, but it's not applicable to dynamic environment. So development administration model is the loyalty towards the people. Purpose of the bureaucracy should be serve the democratic value. Attitude of the bureaucracy should be flexible. This is the development administration model. Okay, and the Weberian characters I described, dynamic character I described. Now bureaucracy is the rule-oriented, rigid, non-participative, centralized, was not suitable vehicle for development, but bureaucracy which flexible, participative, action-oriented, democratic, decentralized, innovative can be a vehicle for the development. Okay, and contingency model is a very best model for that. Now bureaucracy and the ideal model. Ideal model is the E.H. Wilson. He given the ideal model. Ideal gives the role, goal, requirement of the development bureaucracy. Bureaucracy according to him should be progressive, innovative and change oriented. Okay, and skill should be there: human, technical, social skill, including the mental, conceptual ability, behavioral requirements, sensitive, responsive, client oriented, friendly, dynamic, organic. And bureaucracy as a development. Elitist nature is the IAS, which is the Indian Admission Service. Immature now the tone of the tenor of the Indian admission is purely the IAS, so it is the very essential to have the adequate check and balance. And the similar study have been concluded the Panandikar in relation to the personal management, recruitment, transfer and posting. He was personal management. Indian bureaucracy is a mechanical and orthodox, thus the Indian bureaucracy check the faster change. So Kuldeep Mathur took the study of the Rajasthan, and he considered the block development officer of the block development officer functional is the community development program. Study found that bureaucracy was non-development in approach. In other words, the Indian bureaucracy was highly rule-oriented, centralized, rigid. The character was not suitable for developments, and however observed that the IT public grievance settle system, constitutionalism, good governance, NPM environment, and all these development are making the Indian toward the democratic, flexible, decentralized, action-oriented, and this bureaucracy to become a responsible and participative and infusing the development character. To wrapping up the bureaucracy and development, there is no doubt Indian bureaucracy has played a notable role, and infrastructure, facility, health, service, empowerment, the rapid increase in number of the middle class, increase the life expectancy, income, GDP. So 7% as a testimony of development, and an unfortunate expectation remain very quite high. As a result of this, the negative aspect of highlighting the lacuna is more visible than the good work, but the essence of the Indian bureaucracy have done in homework. Okay, so this is all about today. We discussed bureaucracy and the development. So